Black Pen Podcast, where we celebrate the power of writing. I'm Diane Johnson, your host. I'm a writer, visual artist, educator, and a lover of things. And I have with me, welcome my co host, Robert Greer, Sr.
All right, you're my writing buddy, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm a storyteller. I connect with people through visual art, through writing, through poetry, and a line of apparel which reminds us that we are not alone in this world. And it's really meaningful to be on this platform, just to be able to meet and encourage other writers of all genres, especially those that are maybe just starting out or seasoned writers. And we get a chance to bring the conversation with amazing guests that can bring their perspectives, that can bring their insight. They believe in their voices and they empower their community. So we're looking forward to allowing you guys to hear their perspective and
All
then
right.
also how they are, what's important to them at the time.
Okay. Alrighty. We thank you, Dr. Green, for joining
Okay,
us
thank you.
today. Welcome, Dr. Greene. She's a professor English at Eggers College, executive director of the Center of Black Literature, and director of the National Black Conference. My first question for you, Dr. Greene, is can you share with us the history of the Center of Black Literature and how it has elevated black writers today?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to share the story of the Center for Black Literature, which I'm very excited about. I am the founder of the center. I founded the center in 2002, and it was refounded in response to the need to institutionalize the National Black Writers Conferences, which had been held at Medgar Evers College since 1986. They were the vision of the late John Oliver Killens. And because of resources, we were not able to host the conference every year. And so we held it in 1986, 88, 91, 95, 96, and 2000. So I went on sabbatical and really got the support of the president to found the Center for Black Literature. And we modeled it after the Gwendolyn Brooks Center for Black Literature and Creative Writing in Chicago. The
Mm,
purpose of the center is to spread the knowledge and ensure that the general public knows about the vast amount of literature created by Black writers, and to support Black writers through hosting conferences, writing workshops, seminars, readings, publications. We have a youth program. We have a variety of programs, a book club. I actually have a radio show interviewing writers.
right.
And our major program, though, is the National Black Writers Conference. That's our largest. And I would say our second largest program is a program called Re Envisioning Our Lives Through Literature, where we bring teaching artists into the classrooms who work with
Mm,
teachers and students to become aware of the range of Black literature. The students are given books, and then they are able to create their own stories, and there are poems and skits around themes that emerge from these books. They do a production at the end of the semester, and they also read and produce their own anthology of stories. This year, we're working with about 400 students. Last year, we worked with
wow.
close to 500 students. So, another prize program is our Wild Seeds Writers Retreat, where we take writers upstate New York to work on their writing with a seasoned workshop leader, usually in the genres of fiction, memoir,
Hmm.
poetry. We've done playwriting. We also do a virtual retreat in the winter where they can
Mm.
work with writing workshops over 4 days virtually. And then we're very happy about the Killens Review of Arts and Letters, which was in tribute to the late John Oliver Killens. And it gives our writers an opportunity to publish their writing, emerging writers as well as contemporary writers. And it includes art, visual art, and letters and poetry and poems. Those are just some of the programs, but you can
Right.
get a full range of our programs by looking at what we have on our website, which is www.centerforblackLiterature.org.
Well, we have so many things to talk about there. That was absolutely wonderful. The work that you are doing, the work in the community, of course, and being able to expound that to all writers, black writers across the country is amazing. What I would like to know, just at the beginning, if you could share your journey in education and literature and how this began, like how you became Dr. Greene and what still inspires you today.
But thank you for asking that question. I am very passionate about this work. And before coming to Medgar Evers College in 1980, believe it or not, you may not have been born.
I,
I
1978,
believe
I was a
it.
baby
So
when I was
before
born.
coming to Medgar Evers College, I worked for the Board of Education. I was an English teacher in a junior high school. And I also left that after having children. I thought I was going to start my own school. So I've always
Okay.
been really, really committed to working with students and to making sure that students were centered. I was frustrated working for the Board of Education, thus starting my own school, but then an opportunity came to start a Right to Read program,
Oh, wow.
which was sponsored by Malcolm King Harlan College Extension. I
Okay.
was very young, but it gave me an opportunity to develop the program from scratch, to hire the teachers, to develop the curriculum. It was for adults who had difficulty reading. Some of them were reading at the third or fourth grade level.
Wow.
And I had done my undergraduate degree in teaching English at the high school level and my master's degree in teaching reading. So I knew what to do.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, that program was only around for a year, and then I had an opportunity to come to Medgar Evers College. And when asked whether I wanted to work with students around counseling and meeting their needs that way, or whether I wanted to teach, I opted for teaching. And if you know anything about higher education, if you want to stay in higher education, you must have a doctorate.
Yes.
Yes.
So I enrolled at NYU and I got my doctorate in the teaching of composition and rhetoric and became a scholar, did all of my research in that area. But then in 1986, when we began to do the National Black Writers Conferences, I started coordinating the conference and eventually became the coordinator. Elizabeth Nunez was the director at that time, and she wanted to step down and focus on her own writing. She's a novel. She was a novelist. We recently lost her, and she gave the mantle to me to
Okay.
continue doing the National Black Writers Conference. And by then, I had written the proposal to found the Center
Mm-hmm.
for Black Literature, and that became one of the major programs. So the rest is documented, but that's kind of my journey. I always wanted to teach. My cousin said to me when I said I wanted to teach, she said, "Well, that's fine, but I wanted to do more than teach. I now realize I wanted to be an educator."
Right.
Because when you're an educator, you have an opportunity to have impact on what happens. And
Yes. And
while at the college, I became involved not only in teaching and running the Center for Black Literature, I chaired the Department of English. I wrote degree programs. I did that for 15 years. I worked in administrative positions. So I've had a vast range of experience that all comes together in pursuing my passion of having an impact on the reading and writing habits of youth, on
Mm-hmm.
supporting Black writers, on making sure that we recognize the important role that writers play in
right.
this
All
environment
right.
because they're our storytellers, they are our activists, they are
Yes.
our
Yes.
griots, they are our truth tellers.
I agree. I am one of those for sure.
Yes, I
Uh,
see
doc,
you.
Yes, Dr. Green, I'd like to ask you with the writers today, what is trending? What do you see trending among the young black writers today as far as fiction or even nonfiction?
Well, I'm very pleased at what I see because I think the writers today are reflecting the complexity of the literature produced by writers throughout the African diaspora. For example, we see a rise in young adult and middle grade authors. They are producing many, many more books for writers in that genre. And in fact, adults are reading YA books. We call them YA books or young adult
Mm-hmm.
books. You see a rise in speculative fiction where they're going outside of the boundaries of traditional genres and creating stories that create um, um, stories, guided by our seer. I call her our seer and visionary, Octavia Butler,
Yes.
who
Mm-hmm.
was really, in fact, we did a whole symposium on her work. And we've done a symposium on speculative fiction, on the rise in speculative fiction. You have
Okay, Dr.
more
Green.
stories that are just bringing the experiences that have not been told, giving counter narratives, what I call counter narratives of um, what our stories have been. And we didn't see this years ago. And I think you see, I was reading, you have a wider range of people who are creating stories that traditionally would not be accepted by mainstream. You see a rise in the LBGQ literature, for example. You see a
Mm-hmm.
rise in historical fiction. And you see the rise in stories that just represent the everyday experiences that people have with relationships and
Right.
celebrating their joy and their desires. You see a rise in self-help books. There's just such a wide range of
Right.
literature, and more people are taking the chance of publishing their own books. Sometimes publishing their own books, and then they can get picked up by a publisher. They're not afraid to write because
Right.
they are passionate about what they're doing and they believe in doing that. So they may not have a job that's bringing in a lot of money, but they're fulfilling their passion, and that's really exciting to see.
And this brings me to a thought that I had. Of course, I've watched your podcast, and I am a hip hop fan.
Oh, okay.
And to learn that one of my favorite lyricists is your son, so Talib Kweli.
Yes.
He was on talking about his book, since we're talking about young authors and authors in the mid range, vibrate higher. And your conversation was on black like social consciousness. And I'm curious, like, how does writing, how does it empower the communities and influence like the narratives? Like, since we're on that subject right now.
Well, we have a history of that in Black literature. Beginning with people like Frederick Douglass,
Hmm.
writing his autobiography. We have Linda Brent, the narrator in Incidents in the Life of the Slave Girl. We have David Walker's Appeal. We have W.E.B. Du Bois. We
Yeah.
have people who've told the stories of those who have advocated for making sure that our stories are told. Paula Giddings, she did the book on Ida B. Wells. You have
Mm-hmm.
our contemporary poets like Asonia Sanchez, Haki Mahabudi, and the younger poets who are Mahogany Brown. And then you have the tradition of the Black artists, the Black arts movement, which was closely aligned with the Black Power movement, an activist movement. The Black arts movement becomes the premise or the connector to the hip hop movement,
Right.
which is really focused on activism and looking at the responsibility of writers. Talib always says he used to say, "I don't want to be called a socially conscious writer," but he's
Right.
not saying that anymore
Hmm.
because he said, "I am privileged to have a platform to talk." and to raise these issues and to help
Yes.
make people more become more aware and more conscious. So I have a responsibility to do that. And I think that writers do have a responsibility. That was the first question that John Oliver Killens used as the theme for the first conference he did at Medgar Evers College. What is the social responsibility of the writer? And I do think we have a social responsibility. We have a responsibility to, as just being on this earth. I like to quote Shirley Chisholm: service is the rent we pay to live on this earth. So, what is your
Hmm.
service going to be? If you're an artist, you can serve in one way. If you're a writer, if you're a singer, you're a musician, you can pursue your craft, but you
Yes.
also should make sure that you're reaching out to the community and making a statement and
Yeah,
using
absolutely.
that to
Yes.
as a call to action.
Yes. So, Dr. Green, in your own personal time, when you're not directing and moving about with with all that you have to do, what do you do as far as your routine when you sit down to write? What advice can you give our viewers out here, our aspiring writers, on just having a basic routine?
Okay, I think that writers have to accept that writing is a lonely process.
Yes.
You do that while you're alone. You don't have to be lonely, but you do it while you're alone because you need time to really think and reflect. I
Hmm.
think it's really, really important that you are reading because writers are ultimately in conversation with other writers when they are, whether they're writing fiction or poetry or nonfiction. So I keep a journal. I keep three kinds of journals. I keep what I call my reading journal, my reading log journal. So I go to conferences or a lecture or I'm watching something and
Mm-hmm.
I take notes as people are talking about what they're saying. So that's kind of my log, my ongoing record of what I see going on. And then I have my personal journal, which ends up being a reflection of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking. I was inspired by Margaret Walker, whose journal book came out. I think it's 2 years now. The House Where My Soul Lives. Mary Emma Graham did it. It's
Mm.
close to 500 words.
Oh,
Margaret
wow.
Walker kept a journal every day. It's so inspiring. When I think about writing, she this was before we had the media, the television. She wrote every day.
Mm.
And she wrote her personal stories and she wrote about events she went had going on and saw going on in the world, and she chronicled her speeches. And so what Mary Emma Graham, who wrote the biography, says is very clear that she intended for this to be used as a record of her work. So I think journaling is very important. Alice Walker's journal. So I would say journaling, reading, connecting yourself with other writers, listening to what people are saying. It's a lonely process. Taking that time for yourself and
Right.
establishing your own routine. Some people can do it with music. I don't write with music. I
Oh,
can
I
read
love
listening
music,
to
but
music.
yes.
Huh? Excuse me?
I love writing to music, but yes, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I can not my serious writing. I have to have quiet, but my thinking and my reading, I can have jazz playing in the background. That's a little bit
Yes.
different.
It is a little bit different. I think so.
I have just one more question. With the National Black Writers Conference, what age group are you seeing? What is the range of the age group of the people that attend?
Well, it's intergenerational,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would say the age range is ranges from our college students to about 60 or 70s,
Wow.
with the largest number, depending on the writers who we have, being I would say 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is
Wow.
the first time our upcoming conference is focused on YA and middle grade authors, so it'll be interesting to see who we get. This
Mm-hmm.
is the first time we're doing that type of conference. And I'm anticipating that we will have a lot of people who are interested in creating YA literature.
Right.
And because there's a crossover, we're honoring Tony Medina, who does both YA and children's literature and adult literature, and we're honoring Rita Williams Garcia. But
Okay.
for our last conference, when we honored Paul Coates, Percival Everett, Bernice McFadden, and boy, I'm blocking on the last person, Peniel Joseph. We had people probably who were in their 40s and 50s. So some of the people come because they've been coming to the conference for a long time, and some are new people. The
Yeah.
challenge is to really try and get more people from that age group in the 30s
Mm-hmm.
and 40s. And so, in planning the conferences, we try to make sure that we have those writers represented on the panels or the
Okay.
roundtable discussions so that people will come and join them.
So like that's
Yes.
my age group as far
Yes.
as writers, and I am just finding out about the conference. Uh,
Oh,
I, I don't know. I have known nothing about it this whole time, and I'm just finding it out now that how powerful it is. So, what can we, from my age group, what could we expect from this conference this year?
well, this conference we have roundtables that are not focused so much on the books that the writers are doing, but
Mm-hmm.
on the themes like the role of gender
Okay.
and politics in the writing, the role of race, Black Lives Matter in the literature, the role of joy. So what we do, we bring the writers together and ask them, excuse me, to speak from their own perspectives about the writing they do.
Okay.
And they each talk for about 10 or 15. They each talk, excuse me, they each
Mm-hmm.
talk in sessions that are moderated by roundtable, and we try to make sure that there's at least 30 to 45 minutes for Q&A from the audience. So it's called a conference,
Mm-hmm.
technically, but it's really a gathering. Like Sonia Sanchez used to say, it's a place where people come and check their egos at the door, and then
Right.
you have
Right.
an opportunity to have their writers sign books. Excuse me, sign books for you. So it's really a joyous gathering. There'll be vendors, there'll be readings, there'll be a poetry cafe on Thursday night. There's going to be we have our readings from our elders writers workshop. That's always one of the highlights. People love. They're telling their stories. People in their 60s and 70s who are
Okay.
writing their own stories. And then we
Yes.
have our awards program, which is going to be moderated by Jacqueline Woodson, the YA
Okay.
author.
And what's the date for the conference this year, just so all of our viewers can see it?
March 27th.
Okay.
No, I'm going to say March 27th through
Okay.
March 30th. And so on
Okay.
March 27th, we have the youth program with our youth during the day. And in the afternoon, we have our elders readings along with the Poetry Cafe, which we're going to hold at Brooklyn College. I mean, at the Brooklyn Public Library. And then on Friday morning, excuse me, we have papers that represent the themes of the conference. That'll be virtual. And Friday afternoon, we have workshops for people who are interested in writing YA literature or in publishing YA literature on techniques. And then on Saturday from 10 to 7:30, it's a day of panel discussions that start. Each panel has 3 or 4 writers.
Okay.
But I said the program, you can register now. Encourage you to register now. It's on our website at www.centerforblackLiterature.org. I'm so sorry, I'm coughing. A minute.
Oh, you're
That's
fine.
okay.
You're
Well,
fine.
I just think that's the conference, just from my perspective, being around other black writers, even though you're not confident in your voice, maybe that's kind of what I see from my perspective with writers. Nowadays, they kind of hide themselves from the public and they write in secret because they don't really believe that their voice has value. So I do. I'm very excited to know that this exists and it has been for such a long time, and the impact that it's had on so many different black writers. Which brings me back to your work with the black literature, for the contributions that you've had, rather, for the Center for Black Literature, and those connections and resources that are available for those writers that maybe they do not know about at this point right now. But How do you think that has affected Black writers, with the contributions anyway from the center, has affected Black writers from your experience?
Well, I think that you're correct. It's really important to connect to other writers. So for one thing, it shows that you are not alone.
Hmm.
Going to a writers retreat, which we hold in the summer, and you get individual attention from writers. Participating in in the book club, where there's no pressure, just people reading and talking. It's very, very open. It's another way to support writers. Being able to contribute to a magazine, whether you're an emerging writer or not. I encourage people to sign up for our newsletter, which comes out at least a couple of times a month, that gives an overview of the programming we're having. This month, we're coming up, we have Dr. Yushe Blackstock, who wrote a
Okay.
book on the legacy of racism in in medicine. It's her own personal story and her mother's story on how racism has been part of the medical professions that since for years. It's very, very powerful memoir. And then we have our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, who has a book on the ABCs of democracy. It's based on the speech he gave when he first became uh, minority leader. And we're having a book discussion and signing with him on February the 7th. We're doing a program on the importance of black dolls. This is all coming up to the conference.
Right.
So that's not even the conference. And so part of what happens, I know, is at the conference, as a result of the conference, as a result of the writers retreat, as a result of programs, that I know that writers end up forming individual groups
Yeah.
and connections as a result.
Hmm.
So they follow up, and like families are doing these chats, they follow up and have their own meetings that continue after the program has taken place. So it's really a really good place to bond, and it's amazing to see all of these Black writers together in one place. And although it's for everyone, we have everyone, people from all ethnicities, um, come to the conference, but the majority of people are Black writers. This is a space that's created where you can really, really talk about things from your perspective. What
Yes.
does it feel like to go to a writer's retreat and feel like you have to be the representative? You can't really tell your story because you're too busy representing someone else's stereotypical
Right.
idea of who you are.
Mm.
You can be really real and authentic. We did a really powerful workshop once on the MFA programs. I don't know if you have an MFA,
Mm-mm.
and how so many writers who enter those programs feel so marginalized
Yes.
because the faculty members really do not understand and appreciate or value their voices in the same way.
Right.
And so that's why our writers retreat is so important, because you don't have to do that when you come to the Wild Seas Writers Retreat. You're with other writers who have similar experiences, and you can focus on your story
Yeah.
and really get valuable and substantive information on how to develop your craft. So
Now,
I think it's very unique.
Dr. Greene, over the years and stuff, you have really been able to wrangle around the writer, the Black writer, and encouraging them and lifting them up. Could you tell us, in small steps, what we can do now for us starting out as far as encouraging writers, um, trying to bring them out and getting them comfortable? What are some of the steps you think that we can do just on a small scale?
Well, as I said, I think it's important to find spaces
Mm-hmm.
where there are readings and seminars and lectures, and begin to go to that and to connect with people who have similar interests.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to decide what genre you want to focus on and to read in that genre, to read books that represent that genre.
Mhm.
It's important to study the craft. Don't assume that because you want to write a book
Mhm.
that you should just go ahead and write it. Connect with other people and form, even if it's an informal community where you can get feedback from other people on what you're writing.
Yeah.
The community really, really helps. And establish a routine and a discipline. And you're just going back to reading. Read the writers who inspire you.
Mhm.
I think that's important. So you have to, when you want to become involved in something, you have to put yourself in that space where that is happening. People who are in the business world, people who are in the arts world, people in the writing world, you surround yourself with those people. That's where your inspiration is going to
Mhm.
come from. You do that while you're living your life because you still have family and loved ones and you might have your work, but you carve that space out for yourself
Right.
Mhm.
to make sure that that's self-care.
Yes.
Self-care, your emotional, your psychological, and your intellectual needs are just as important as the work that you do and what you do for other people. Listen to that inner voice and follow it.
Okay.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Yes, yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned self-care because that's one of the areas that we do neglect as being writers. Can you just expound a little bit more on what you do as far as self-care?
Well, it goes back to discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very conscious about making sure that I try and exercise every day. My exercise at this point is more walking,
Mm-hmm.
looking at what I eat. I don't, you can eat to live or live to eat.
Right.
Right.
So just being very conscious about what you're taking into your body. I have a tendency to be kind of a workaholic. So I have to calm down at night. And I find that drinking tea at
Yes.
night really helps to relax me. And reading, going to sleep with a book rather than the TV is much more invigorating and more satisfying for me. When you have the TV around you, you have all these voices that are in your head.
Yeah.
And
Distractions.
when you're reading a book, particularly something you might be interested in writing yourself, you can allow yourself to really examine the interior life. Because I think one of the things you're doing as a writer is really trying to go deep down and to think deeply about what is it you value
Yes.
and to listen to other people. And you can't do that if you have all of these other noises in your head, all these other people in your head. Take time for yourself.
All
That makes
right.
sense. Well, before we get out of here, I do have a question. I'm just curious. Based on your lifetime and all your experience and the people that you have met, what has been, I'm sure you have many, but one of your maybe favorite experiences as a writer or a director? What's something that you think about like this was such a rich experience for me?
Well, one major transformative experience for me was when I was when I went on sabbatical and decided to write the proposal. While I was on sabbatical, I wrote the proposal to found the Center for Black Literature. But I also had an opportunity to manage the bookstore that Talib Kweli and Yasmin Bey, formerly Mos Def,
Yeah.
created. I learned a lot about the business of selling. And the president of
Hmm.
the college was just really, really supportive and allowed me to actually stay on sabbatical for 2 years. When I got ready to go back to work, I was mentally exhausted. Had gained a profound respect for the small business owner,
Right.
the independent books. I knew all about book selling, but I was exhausted. And a friend of mine said, "There's a place you can go, a cabin, upstate New York. You'll be
Hmm.
by yourself. It's off Lake Champlain, and you can just write or just relax. And I said, that sounds perfect. And I went there and I didn't tell my family where I was going because I
Wow.
knew if they knew I was in the woods, a Black woman by myself,
Yep.
upstate New York,
Exactly.
they
Right.
would not. But that was a transformative experience for me. I stayed for 4 weeks
Wow.
Wow.
in a cabin, and I had my car. I took my car. I could go and get food. Very small space. I
Mhm.
used, the toaster oven. Just ate very lightly. I had my music and my food, and I came up with a routine. And I wrote every day. I have not finished the novel that I started my memoir,
Mhm.
which is one of my writing projects I want to go back to. But I wrote the whole draft of my memoir there, and when I came back, people said you look so refreshed
Right.
and wonderful. But it was transformative because it showed me that I could really write. I was surrounded by
Yes.
writers. I was doing all of this work to support writers, but I wasn't doing it for me.
Right.
What
And
a
that allowed me to write. In fact, I ended up doing a personal essay on Besides Still Waters at the
ooh.
Payton Institute, and that was special. So that goes back to that self care and
Mm-hmm.
healing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and making sure that you take time and listen to that inner voice rather than rushing right back to work. I found the space to do something that would be emotionally and intellectually satisfying for me.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
what a wonderful experience to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
Absolutely.
It was
Well,
a privilege and a blessing.
yes.
Yes,
And you didn't
yes,
get an
indeed.
APP put out on you either, so no one was looking for you.
Right.
That
Yeah, I told my family after I got back because I was a little bit nervous too,
right.
Yes.
you know, but I don't know if I could do that now. But
Well, that's okay. Well, that's okay. At that time, that's what you needed, which is
that's
important.
what I needed.
But
And you
what
were
we
brave enough to do it.
Yep.
To get out there on your own and not worry about anything.
Yeah, and that's how
That's
we're
right.
brave in our writing. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time with us today, Dr. Greene,
Yes.
to share your insight and your story. We appreciate you so much. And we thank you, all of our viewers that are watching us today on the Black Pen Podcast for this first episode. And we do want to thank well, acknowledge the Knight Foundation for allowing this episode to be put on and in front of you. And we just want to just continue to grow our writing group, our writing experiences, especially in our area. And we just thank you for sharing your experience with us today.
And just thank you for the wealth of information that you have given us. And we are encouraged and we are ready to continue to encourage other writers.
Yes. Okay.
Well,
So,
thank you so much for giving me the space to tell that story. And as you talk about how we move forward. These are the spaces we need. This is what's going to help to
Yes.
motivate and inspire people. So thank you for doing this work
oh, you're
Oh,
very
and
welcome.
thank
creating
you.
that space for writers.
Well, writers, we thank you for watching. And as always, we want you to be able to follow us on social media. So, Facebook, Instagram, Akron Black Artist Guild. And of course, visit our website at www.abaguild.org. And we do have a volume one out, don't we, Miss Diane?
Yes, it's the
Yes.
Black Pen.
Yes.
And we're waiting on volume 2, which is coming out in the spring. And we just want to remind you and all our viewers out there to keep writing and remember whatever you write, it matters.